Hello and welcome to another episode of Black Talk Radio News. My name is Scotty Reid. I just briefly want to talk about The Last Dance, this documentary or so-called documentary about Michael Jordan, as Horace Grant calls it, a so-called documentary. Of course, I even heard Ken Burns, the famous documentary maker, say he would have never shot the film with Jordan having that much control, his production company and what have you, putting this out. It is nothing but a hype video. That's basically all it is, and I have no intentions of watching it. Now, I have been reading some of the commentary. I have been catching some clips of, let's say, Stephen A. and some of the other sports commentators talking about it, but I have no interest of watching it. But Stephen A. said some ridiculous things, as well as a lot of other people. For example, Stephen A. said that Michael Jordan built the team up from scratch. I don't think Michael Jordan was the GM of the Bulls, Stephen A. He didn't draft Scottie Pippen. He didn't draft Horace Grant. He didn't trade for Bill Cartwright. And he didn't trade later on in the second three-peat during the lead up to the second three-peat. He didn't draft or trade for Dennis Rodman, the Worm. Okay. Now, I was a Jordan fan while he was at North Carolina University, UNC Tar Heels, and I still remember the shot over the Georgetown Hoyas that lifted them to that national championship. But that was a pretty stacked team. Jordan was just one of many talents on that team. I still remember Sam Perkins, James Worthy. I remember all of them. But Jordan, when he got to the pros, I really didn't have an opinion about him because I grew up in Detroit, although I was born in North Carolina and I moved back to North Carolina when I was 13 years old. But from the age 2 to 12, I lived in Detroit. So naturally, I was a Piston fan. I remember the days I'm forgetting his name, not Bill Laimbeer, but there was another older guy who played. I just can't remember his name right now, but I was a long time Pistons fan. Okay. And, some of the things that Jordan said that people been saying was in a documentary about him calling the Pistons dirty and say they dirty up the game and what have you. No, they didn't. They played hard basketball, just like, you had Hacker Shaq, because Shaq was basically unstoppable down low. So they were going to make him, shoot free throws. The same thing with the Jordan rules, that the Pistons had adopted. Of course, he's always been a talented, pretty much unstoppable scorer. You can't take that away from him. But the Pistons developed a good strategy. They was going to make him earn it from the line. They was going to wear him down with physical play. That's not dirty. That's not dirty basketball. And for him to, insinuate that they were thugs or something, now we see from behind the scenes that it was Jordan who was a thug, who was a bully, who hazed his fellow teammates with some of these stories that's coming out now. I mean, if this was college basketball today and a star player was treating his teammates that way, rightfully that player might get kicked out, might get brought up on charges for hazing other players. Now, Michael Jordan never did actually he did punch people in the pros, his own teammates in practice. And then people want to make it seem like, oh, he was just trying to make them mentally tough. Well, that's a crock. That's a bunch of BS. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who I consider to be the greatest of all time, very humble guy, very skilled athlete, and we never heard of any kind of stories about him mistreating fellow players. Actually, I've never heard of any players, and I'm sure there probably were others, but not at the star level of a Jordan or Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. But I never heard of star players on other teams just being straight up assholes to their fellow players. And so, I think that Jordan, as a human being, leaves something to be desired. Now, as I look back, now that I'm older now, I'm in my 50s, I'm 53, but I remember, the commercials, Be Like Mike, but really what they were really talking about, which I see now, is be like Mike. Just shut up and dribble. Don't say nothing about these social political issues. As y'all know, famously or infamously, Michael Jordan was asked to campaign or cut an ad for Harvey Gantt, who was the former mayor of Charlotte, North Carolina, who was running for the Senate against the racist Jesse Helms. And Jordan replied that, hey, Republicans buy shoes too. All he was interested in was selling shoes. Didn't matter that those shoes were being made by darn near slave labor, but exploited labor in some of these other countries that don't have strong labor protections for their workers. He was just concerned about making money. That's all he's ever been concerned about, in my opinion. So, now he's trying to play like, oh, I was just joking. That was just a joke. No, it wasn't, Michael. Just tell the truth. Just tell the truth. And so this idolatry that's surrounding Michael Jordan, I don't think it is a good thing, man. It is not a good thing whatsoever. I would not want my grandsons, because I got all daughters, but I do have several grandsons. I would not want them to grow up to be like Mike. I want them to be conscious. I want them to be smart. I want them to be well-rounded. I don't want them to be like Mike. Recently or in recent years, maybe past couple of years, the Silent Sam, which is a monument on the UNC campus, or used to be on the UNC campus, which is a symbol of white supremacy, a monument to Confederate soldiers that fought and died to keep black people in chains and what have you. I found an old picture of Michael Jordan actually posing with Sam Perkins in front of Silent Sam with a big old grin on his face. And when this controversy arose with students protesting and finally getting it removed, I think some students actually tore it down themselves. Michael Jordan, you didn't hear nothing from him. He didn't have an opinion on his alma mater having a symbol of white supremacy on the campus. And again, he took a picture with a big old grin on his face in front of Silent Sam. So I don't have much respect for Michael Jordan whatsoever, neither as a basketball player or as a human being. And, I don't think that the Charlotte Hornets are ever going to be any good under his leadership. I just don't think so, though. Charlotte Hornets haven't been good since the days of Alonzo Mourning, Larry Johnson, Muggsy Bogues, and Dale Curry. They've been straight up garbage since Bob Johnson first bought them, changed the name of the Bobcats, and then Jordan bought them, and they changed the name back to the Hornets. Hornets are sorry, but I'm not really into sports like that anymore. Okay, so this has been Scotty. Please continue to support the production of independent, non-mainstream Black media by making a donation to the North Carolina-based nonprofit Black Talk Media Project, which manages our home platform, which is blacktalkradionetwork.com. Thanks for watching.